Hello there, and welcome back to a second part of this stream chat tutorial series. So in the first part of this series you already saw the preview of our application and all the functionalities which our application will have. So in this tutorial series I have already prepared one project, and I have already designed all those layout files, so we don't have to waste the time of designing all those layouts. And in this tutorial series we're going to only add the logic to implement our Stream Chat SDK. So you can access this Stream Chat SDK on this GitHub link, so getstream/streamchat-android, and down below you're going to find all the necessary information which you're going to need to use this SDK. So here basically we're going to initialize our chat client, and we're going to use that same instance across our application. So here let's create a new variable named client, and here I'm going to call chat client.builder. And here, as you can see, we have to pass two parameters. The first one is the actual API key, okay? So inside my strings XML, I have already added that API key, so here it is. And you can access that API key when you log into your getstream.io website, and that's actually a website for our Stream Chat SDK. So here you just need to create your account, and after you create account you will see that one application will be immediately created here in your dashboard. And of course you can delete that application and you can create another one, but in this case this is how my application looks like. So it's named Stream Chat Demo, and here is my actual API key, and you can just copy that API key and paste to your Android Studio project. Alright, so here I have already added my API key, and here I can proceed and just call getString, and here I can pass r.string.api key, and the second parameter is the actual context, so I'm going to pass the application context, so this, and then I'm going to call a log level function, and here I'm going to specify chat log level all, okay? And finally let's call the build function. So here I'm using this log level chat log level all to actually show all logs from this Stream Chat SDK, and that's very useful when you're working with this SDK, so be sure to add that as well. And after that we're going to call a chat domain .builder, and here I'm going to pass the first parameter, which is a client or chat client, and the second one is the actual context, so application context, and let's call here build as well. So that's all we need to add to our my application class, and this chat client class is the main entry point for all low-level operations on chat, and this chat domain is the main entry point for all live data and offline operations on chat. So for now that's all we need to declare inside our my application class. So here we have basically initialized our chat client, and this instance will be used across our application. So now we can close that. So now inside our main activity I want to create two variables. So the first variable will be a late init variable called the nav controller, and the second one will be called the client, and here we're going to call our chat client and we're going to get that instance. So inside our on create here I'm going to initialize our nav controller, so I'm going to call a find nav controller, and here I'm going to pass the ID of our nav host fragment. So if you check your main activity layout you will see that here we have only one view, and that is a nav host fragment, and inside that nav host fragment our default destination is a login fragment. Okay, so we can close that for now. Next I'm going to add here one if block and check if a nav controller current destination label, I'm going to convert that to string, then I'm going to use contains a function, and here I'm going to check if this current destination actually contains a label with the text of a login. So if that's true, that means that we are currently navigated inside our login fragment, and if we check our navigation graph, then you will see that the label on our login fragment is actually fragment_login, and this is what we are actually comparing inside our if block. So only if we are currently at our login fragment, then we want to execute some logic here. So first I'm going to create here a new variable named current user, and I'm going to call our chat client get current user, and down below I'm going to create one more if block and check if the current user is not null. So if we are at our login fragment and we are already logged in, then we want to immediately navigate to our channel fragment. So if our current user is not null, that would mean that we are successfully authenticated with our Stream Chat SDK, and in that case we don't need our login fragment. Instead we're going to immediately navigate from our login fragment to our channels fragment or a channel fragment. And when we navigate to our channel fragment, we also want to pass some values, and those values are the actual name and the ID. So in our application, ID is represented through our username, and you will see about that. So here I'm going to create a new variable named the user, and I'm going to call a chat user, and that's our model class which we have created. And this model class accepts a first name and the username, and here we're going to get the first name from our current user variable .name, and we're going to get the username from our current user .id. Okay, so in the real project, you would basically generate some unique ID for your user, but in this case I have just used a username to be the actual ID of our current user, okay? Alright, so down below I'm going to create one more variable called action, and here I'm going to call a login fragment directions dot action login fragment to channel fragment, and here I'm going to pass our chat user object. So let's type here user, and down below let's call a navcontroller.navigate, and here let's pass that action. So this block of code will basically be executed when we leave our application and open our application after a certain amount of time. And in that case we want to check if our current user is authenticated, and if it is, then we don't want to display a login fragment anymore, we just want to navigate to our channel fragment directly. And also we want to pass our chat user object, and if you check our navigation graph, you will see that our channel fragment contains one argument, and that is a chat user of a type of a chat user, and that's our model class, of course. And from our channel fragment we're going to continue later. So for our main activity that will be all, so let's close that for now. And now we want to continue with our login fragment. So before we continue with our login fragment, let's open our fragment login layout file. So here, as you can see, I have already designed this layout. So here we have two text views which will present a title and subtitle. Then we have our first name input layout and username input layout, and we have one button. So now from our login fragment, we basically want to check if those two fields are not empty, and if those two fields are not empty, then we can proceed to our channel fragment. So now from our login fragment, we need to check and validate those inputs before we proceed to our channel fragment. So the first thing here, I'm going to call a binding, because I have already implemented here a view binding. So let's call our button, and let's add a set on click listener. So here I want to create a new function named authenticate the user. So let's create that function down below. Okay. And before we continue with that function, I want to create another function down below, and I'm going to name that function private fun validate input. So this function will take two parameters. The one is input text of a type string, and the second one is the actual text input layout. And this function will return a boolean value, so it will return true if our field is not empty, and it will return false if our field is actually empty. So here we're going to create the logic, and we're going to return if, and here I'm going to type if input text dot length is less than or equal to 3. So we want to basically allow our user to go to channel fragment only if those two fields contain less than or equal to 3 characters in those fields. So if that's true, then I want to call a text input layout dot is error enabled, and I want to enable that error. And here I want to also call text input layout, and I want to set the error message. And here I can just write, for example, something like minimum 4 characters allowed, and I want to return here false. And in else case, I want to call again text input layout. I want to call is error enabled. I want to set it to false, so I want to disable that error on our text input layout. So text input layout dot error, and here I'm going to set that error to null. And finally here I want to return true. Okay, so now from our authenticate the user function, I want to create two variables. The first one first name, and here I want to call a binding dot first name edit text, and I want to get a text from that edit text and to convert that to string. And down below I want to create another variable named the username, and here I want to call a username edit text, get the text from that edit text and convert that to string. So down below I want to add one if block and check with this validate input function. So validate input, here I'm going to pass first the first name as a first parameter, and as a second one I want to pass a binding dot first name input layout, and here I want to add the and operator, and again call a validate input function, and this time I'm going to pass the user or the username, and the second parameter binding dot username input layout. So this if block will be executed only if this function returns true in both cases, and that would mean that all our fields inside our login fragment contain 4 or more more characters. So in that case, I want to create a new variable named chat user, and here again I want to create a chat user object, and here I'm going to pass the first name and the username. Okay, so the same thing as we did inside our main activity, and here I want to again call action. So login fragment directions dot action login fragment to channel fragment, and here I want to pass the chat user, and of course find nav controller dot navigate to that action. So as you can see, that will be all for our login fragment. So whenever we press our go button, we want to check and see if both of those fields contain 4 or more characters, and only then we will be able to proceed to our channel fragment. And if one of those fields does not contain 4 characters, then we're going to display here an error. So let's just run our application once again to check this logic. Okay, so here let's try and type 3 characters, and here let's type 4 characters, for example. Click go, and as you can see here, we're going to receive an error that says a minimum 4 characters allowed. So we can navigate to our channel fragment only if those 2 fields have 4 characters minimum. And inside our login fragment, this is the place where you can create your users, okay? So I can click go, and I'm going to actually go to our channel fragment. So here, as you can see, we don't have anything so far, but now we're going to go to our channel fragment and implement some logic. So now let's go to our channel fragment. Let's close our login fragment. Okay, so as you can see, inside our channel fragment we have already implemented our view binding as well. And also on top of our channel fragment, I want to create a new variable called the args, and here I want to call a channel fragment args. And I'm going to use a delegate called nav_args to actually accept those or that argument from our login fragment. So we're going to need this variable later. And now inside our onCreate, first I'm going to create one function named setUpUser. Okay, so let's create that function down below. So now here we need to create our user object for our stream Chat SDK in order to connect our user with that same SDK. So here I'm going to just write some code, and then I'm going to explain you. So before we continue, let's just create here a new variable. So private vol client, and let's call ChatClient.instance, so we can use our ChatClient instance. And here inside our function we need to call one if block and check if our client.getCurrentUser is actually null. So here we want to create our user object only if we are not authenticated to our stream chat. So here first I'm going to create one late init variable called the user of a type user. And here inside this if block I'm going to call that user, and I'm going to write here if args.chatUser, and that's our argument, dot first name contains, here I'm going to write my name of my user. So if that's true, then I want to create here a new user object. So this io.getStream.chat, okay. And here, as you can see, we can pass multiple parameters. So the first parameter here which I want to pass is the ID, and here for the ID I can specify from args, so args.chatUser, and we're going to get the value from that argument which we have passed from our login fragment. So .username. So basically you can create this user object just by passing the ID, but I also want to here add some extra data, and here I want to call a mutable map of, and here I need to specify multiple parameters. So here inside this extra data you can pass your custom data, and here I'm going to specify the name for our user, and here I can just call args.chatUser.firstname. Then here I can create some custom data, for example country, and here I can write for example Serbia. And down below I want to specify an image for our profile or for our user, and here I'm going to just pass some URL of this my profile photo. And here in else block, so if our first name from our chat user argument does not contain this string, then I want to create some new user with some different values. So here for the ID I'm going to specify again the ID from those args, so chat user, so chat user.username, and here I can specify extra data, so mutable map of, and here I can specify the name to be the name from that argument as well, so args.chatUser.firstname. So basically here I wanted to hard code some values because I didn't want to crowd our login fragment with some more text input fields, for example for this image, and that's why I wanted to create here if block and check if the user contains the first name of this string, which is my user. Then I'm going to add this custom image, and in else case I'm going to create a different user without that image, and in that case there will be some profile photo of that user which will be automatically generated. So you will see about that as well. And after that check here, I want to connect our user with our Stream Chat SDK. So the first thing, I'm going to create here a new variable called token, and here I'm going to call client.devToken, and here I'm going to pass our user variable from above .id, and down below I'm going to call a client.connectUser, and here I want to pass a user as a first parameter, and as a second one I'm going to pass this token. And of course here I want to call enqueue, and here I want to just check if the result is successful or not. So if the result is successful, then I can just display simple log, and here I can display a simple message, for example, success connecting the user. And in else case I can just display another message, for example result.error.message.toString. Okay, so basically what this function will do, it will create our user object and the token down below, and using those two variables we're going to connect our client with our Stream Chat SDK. And of course here we're calling this enqueue function, which basically executes the call asynchronously on a background thread, and here we are checking if that result is successful, and if it is, then we can just print here a simple log, and in else case we can just print a simple error. So the reason here why I'm checking if this first name is Stefan is because I want to create the custom user with this custom profile photo if the first name is this string, and in else case I want to just create a user without that image. So that's the only reason. And here, as you can see, there is one thing that's important. So here I have called the dev token to create something called a dev token, right? Because this is just for the example purposes, but in your real application you would get that token from your user from a backend when the user authenticates. But since this is just an example, I'm going to use this dev token. And there is one more important thing when we are talking about this dev token. So you need to open that website for this Stream Chat SDK, so getstream.io, and once you log into your account and go to this dashboard, then you need to select these options, then edit. And here you need to be sure that you have selected this development option, because here in this case we're using our dev token. And also you need to select this Stream Chat demo, and also you need to select your application here. And then you need to go to here chat, then an overview, and you need to scroll down below until you find this option which says disable auth check, and you need to enable this option, okay? And after you enable this option, you need to click this save button to save that. So only then you will be able to use this dev token. So basically this function will create the user and the token, and it will use those two values to connect our user with Stream Chat. So now that we have created that function, I want to create another function here called setup channels. So let's create that function, so Alt+Enter, and let's paste that function below our setup user. Okay, so this is just for example purposes, of course, so here. And basically inside this function I want to create all the necessary logic to display all channels in which the current user is included. And if you check this fragment channel layout, you will see that here, as you can see, we have a drawer layout as a root element, because we're going to use this navigation drawer. And then we have a constraint layout, and inside that constraint layout we have a channel list header, we have a channel list header view, and a channel list view. So channel list header view will basically show one text on the center and a profile photo of our user on the left side. And this channel list view will basically display all our channels inside a list. And finally down below, as you can see, we have one navigation view which should just display our navigation drawer. So for now we're going to focus on displaying all those channels inside our channel list view. So let's go back to our channel fragment, and here inside our setup channel function I'm going to create first a new variable called filters, and I'm going to call filters from our Stream Chat SDK.end. And here I want to specify two filters where we're going to filter and display only the necessary channels we need. So for the first filter I'm going to call filters.eq, which stand for equals, and here I want to say type, and here I'm going to specify messaging. So there are multiple types of stream chats, and in this case we're using a messaging type. And as a second filter I want to specify filters.in, and here I want to specify as a field name members, and here as a value I'm going to specify list of, and here I'm going to specify client.getCurrentUser, and here I'm going to specify the ID. So basically with this filter I want to show only the channels where our current user is involved. And down below I need to create one more variable called the view model factory. Here I'm going to call a channel list view model factory, and inside this view model factory I want to specify those filters which we have specified, and as a second one I'm going to specify a sort value. So here I can just call a channel list view model dot default sort. Okay, so this channel list view model factory is already defined inside our stream chat, so we don't have to worry about anything here, just follow my lead. Then down below I'm going to create a new variable called the list view model, and here I'm going to specify a channel list view model as a type. And here I'm going to use view models delegate, and here I'm going to specify that view model factory. Down below I'm going to create a new variable list header view model, and here I'm going to call a channel list header view model, and I want to initialize that view model as well. So view models delegate as well. Okay, perfect. And finally I want to call our list view model first, and down below I want to basically bind our channel list view and the channel list header view with those view models, which will basically provide all the necessary data to our views. So let's just call here first the list header view model, then a bind view function, and here we need to specify our actual channel list header view. So let's call binding.channel list header view, and as a second parameter we need to pass a lifecycle owner, so view lifecycle owner, and down below let's call our list view model dot bind view function again. Here let's pass binding dot channels view. That's the ID of our channel list view, and here let's specify view lifecycle owner as well. So that's all we need to specify for our setup channels function, and here we're going to filter and display only the channels in which our current user is included. And now I think that we can run our application and see if we have some of those channels. Okay, so here I'm going to authenticate with so first name Stefan, and here for the username the name of my YouTube channel. So let's now click go button. And here, as you can see, our channel list header view has displayed our profile photo, and that's the image which I have specified inside our setup user function. Here we have some title, and we have one action button as well. And down below you can see that we have our channel list view, where we're going to display all channels which we have. And as you can see, in this case I have 3 channels, so I have already created those channels before, and that's why I can see them. And if you're running this application for the first time, then you're going to see a message that says no channels or something, but don't worry about that, just follow my lead. And at the end of this tutorial series you will be able to create your own chat, which you saw in this first part of this series. So the final thing that is left here to do is to actually create our navigation drawer, or to just implement that navigation drawer. So if we open our layout directory here and we open our drawer header, you will see that I have already specified and created the layout for our drawer, or for our header drawer. So here we have just one avatar view, which is actually the part of our stream chat SDK, and this view is basically displaying our profile image or our avatar from our user. And as you can see inside our application, only my user have this customized profile photo, and all other users have this default automatically generated profile photo instead. And here also I have 2 text views, one which will show our ID, or in this case username, and the other which will display our name. So we already have that drawer header, and we also have created this drawer menu. As you can see, we have 4 different menus. So those first 3 are just an example, and this 4th one will be actually used. So let's close all of that for now. Inside our fragment channel we have already created this drawer layout as a root layout to our fragment channel layout, and we have also included this navigation view in which we have specified our header layout and our menu. So now let's close that, and here inside our channel I'm going to create a new function named setup drawer. So let's create that function down below, and here I'm going to just paste some code to actually set up our navigation drawer. Okay, so as you can see inside this function, I'm basically setting up our navigation drawer, and here I have added this set navigation item selected listener, and I'm going to add only listener for our logout menu. So here I have called one function logout, which we're going to create a little bit later, and down below I have also created one variable where I'm going to store the current user, and down below, as you can see, I'm calling this get header view to get our header view from our navigation drawer, and I'm using our current user to actually set the data from that current user to our header avatar, then a header ID and a header name. So now before we run our application, to show you how our navigation drawer will look like, we just need to add one more line of code. So here in our onCreate view, I'm going to call binding.channel list header view, and here I want to add a set on user avatar click listener. And here when we click our user avatar, I want to call a binding.drawer layout.open drawer, so I can open up our drawer, and here I'm going to call gravity.start. So now let's run our application to see how our navigation drawer will actually work. Okay, so let's here authenticate with our name and username. Okay, click a go button. And here now when we press on this profile photo or on this user avatar, we are going to open our navigation drawer. And here, as you can see, we have successfully displaying our profile photo, our ID, which is our username, and our name. And down below, as you can see, we also have some menu items. And now I want to create a function to actually be able to log out from our stream chat. Okay, so down below, I'm going to comment out this line of code, and I'm going to create that function down below as well. So let me just cut and paste those two functions down below here. Okay, and here let me just paste some code, and then I'm going to explain you how this code will actually work. Okay, so here inside our logout function, I have created the alert dialog where I'm going to display option to click yes or no. So if the user press yes, then we're going to disconnect our user, and we're going to navigate back from our channel fragment to our login fragment, and also display a simple toast message. So now let's run our app again, and let's check our channel fragment once again. Okay, so here I'm going to log in with my user. Alright, so now let's open our navigation drawer, and let's click this logout button. So as you can see, we have this alert dialog, and if I press yes, then we will successfully log out from our account or from our stream chat. And we're going to continue working on our stream chat application in our final part of this tutorial series. So for this video, that will be all. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you find it helpful, and see you in the next one. If I die, I'm a legend when they lay me down to rest.